Hello, hello. Happy NFL trade deadline. That was quite an eventful day. Isaiah Ford on the move, probably the new wide receiver one for the New England Patriots. It's also not even a joke. This is 2020. These are the New England Patriots, but he is not probably going to be coming up in our waiver wire show tonight. I'm Zach Brunner. With me, as always, on Tuesday evenings. I had to double check that it was Tuesday. All these days are running together. Luke and Tanner, how's it going, guys? How do you recover from week 8 so far?
Yeah, week 8 was kind of an up and down week. But I guess that just makes for better fantasy football shows, right?
Yeah, I was telling Zach before the show how I put in Tevin Coleman and Jimmy G for Derek Carr and Zach Moss on Sunday morning because of the weather, and Tevin Coleman looks like he's going to get a lot of work. But other than that, it was a good week.
Yeah, the weather was wild. It seriously did have an impact, more so than I think a lot of people we were thinking, but tough break for anybody who started a San Francisco player not named Brandon Ayuk, and I suppose Kendrick Bourne. Maybe we'll get into them a little bit, but waiver wire show, we will go position by position. This week on bye are the Eagles, the Rams, the Browns, and the Bengals. So there's some fantasy relevance there. A few quarterbacks, some wide receivers, definitely a couple running backs that your team may be missing. So this is a crucial week. A lot of teams now are at that point where this could be must win. It could be a full sell week at this point if you're in a dynasty league. This is a pivotal week though, so we will hopefully help you out. We'll start with quarterback, and there are some quarterback injuries on top of the buys. So Jimmy Garoppolo not going to be playing Thursday night. Gardner Minshew, it sounds like he's probably going to miss as well with the Jaguars coming off their bye. So there's some quarterbacks available you probably should look at. The one that we keep, or a couple that I'm going to bring up that we keep bringing up every single week is Derek Carr. He plays at the Chargers, so I mean at this point it doesn't matter. They're always going to be in the game. We can pretty much expect the Chargers to jump out to a lead, and Derek Carr is going to pass to bring him back. I think he's a candidate. And then Teddy Bridgewater, probably getting Christian McCaffrey back. Long week, goes to the Chiefs, to Arrowhead Stadium. We know Kansas City's likely going to put up some points there, so I think positive game script for him. Tanner, what do you think about those two quarterbacks for this week?
Yeah, like you said, we really do talk about these guys every week, and I have a lot of confidence in Derek Carr. I love the matchup last week. Like, we talked him up on the show, and then you didn't know how the weather was going to turn out later in the week. And I feel like you can chalk up the bad week pretty much to just the bad weather there. Like, the Browns only scored 6 points and the Raiders had 16. There's like 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. But like, ultimately, Carr has multiple touchdown passes in every single game except for week 1 and then this last week in the weather. And with the new weapons around him that he has this season, he's playing really good football, and he only has 2 interceptions on the season. So Carr will definitely be in my quarterback streaming article this week. And as far as Teddy Bridgewater goes, big fan of the Panthers offense so far this season. You definitely expected more against Atlanta on Thursday night, but Thursday games can be kind of tricky in division. Like, I usually stay, like, whenever there's an in-division Thursday game, I pay attention to it because I feel like it's harder to predict, and Bridgewater just didn't really come through. But if he gets McCaffrey back, Kansas City's going to put up a bunch of points, so Bridgewater's going to have to throw a lot to keep up in that game. So you can definitely do worse than Bridgewater this week too. And I just like Bridgewater for the remainder of the season as well.
Yeah, I think Carr especially coming off that week, I'm sure some people are going to drop him. I know he's not like a free agent right now, but Thursday, Friday rolls around and Derek Carr's on the waiver wire. You should probably think about picking him up, especially against the Chargers been not good this year on defense. Bridgewater is always an interesting one too. Carolina offense is good. It feels like they're fun to watch. They got like playmakers, what seems all over the field. And you got to think McCaffrey just boosts that offense immensely. The league, and he'll catch balls. That makes it that much easier for Teddy Bridgewater to throw him the ball because McCaffrey is basically receiver running back hybrid. So that just means more points for Teddy Bridgewater. So yeah, both of them are great, streaming options this week.
Just looking at ownership for both of them, it's kind of crazy how many ESPN leagues apparently don't have a waiver period or whatever, a waiver transaction time. Because at the time of our article on flurrysports.org was written, Carr was somewhere in the 40s, I believe, and it shows that Carr's ownership has gone up 35% since last week already. He's already owned in 61% of leagues. So I would assume if you are one of the people who, you know, find this show important, you're probably putting in your waiver claims tonight, and he's probably available. It shows Teddy Bridgewater is available, or owned, I guess, rather, in 51% of leagues. So both of them pretty widely available. And obviously, talking about those injuries, talking about the bye weeks, there's going to be a lot of people looking for quarterbacks this week. One other player, I can find his ownership here. It's probably pretty low. Yeah, Drew Lock. Drew Lock owns 6% of leagues. You know, you don't feel good about Drew Lock, but he has progressed. The Broncos have shown a little bit of life, and I think the best thing we can say about him is he plays at Atlanta this week. So assuming he gets some people back, maybe Tim Patrick's back for him. He's got a couple of really good tight ends, good receiving tight ends, and some other young playmakers starting to come into their own. Luke, what do you think about Drew Lock? Would you rank him above either of the two quarterbacks we already talked about, or no?
I definitely think the case could be made. I don't think I'd rank him above Derek Carr this week, just seeing what Drew Lock did to the Chargers last week, throwing for 250 and 3 touchdowns. But, the matchup against Atlanta is tasty. Drew Lock, he's kind of been – I know I had him at the beginning of the season in my year 2 breakout players. It seems to me he's kind of like slow development here. But, I mean, getting a good matchup here against the Chargers and then Atlanta, this could really be the game where Drew Lock shows that he is, the franchise quarterback for the Broncos. So I think this is not only, a great matchup, but a statement game for Drew Lock to say, I'm good. I'm good enough to, to be your quarterback for years to come. So, yeah, I like Drew Lock a lot. I wouldn't put him ahead of Derek Carr, but I think I'd put him ahead of Teddy Bridgewater this week.
Yeah, I feel really similarly, actually. I wouldn't put him above Carr. But for this week, I think you can definitely make an argument that Drew Lock is a better play than Bridgewater. Zach, when you were looking for the ownership, I was going to throw out, is it 6.2? Because Drew Lock was the last quarterback I felt really good about that you can pick up on waivers. 40 passing attempts in each of the last 2 weeks. And I loved what I saw from him in the Chargers game because they were so far behind in that game, and you knew they were passing to come back in that game, and he was still able to get it done and come back and ultimately win the game. And I kind of like the weapons he has around him. Hopefully Tim Patrick's back, like you said, and ultimately just like 250 and 3 touchdowns. And this last game gave me a lot of confidence in him, and he's another guy that will most likely be in my QB streamer article this week.
Talking about the two quarterbacks that are likely to replace the injuries we talked about before, Nick Mullins likely going to start Thursday night against the Packers. I'm not super high on that just because it's very obvious that the 49ers will be trying to run the ball against the Packers. No point in passing against a team that's going to give you 5-6 yards before contact. And then Jake Luton would be the one to start for the Jaguars, assuming Gardner Minshew misses. Matchups decent, obviously, against Houston. Houston also coming off a bye, though. I just think there's other places we could go this week, but Luton, interesting in deep leagues, very interesting for DFS. Otherwise, I'd probably avoid him up to even 14-team leagues. The quarterback I really want to bring up before I ask you guys, he's not under that 60% threshold that I usually like to stick to, but he's owned in 68%. That's Cam Newton. Obviously, Patriots stink. Obviously, I mean, I've been on record since his MVP season of saying Cam Newton stinks. I don't think he's a good player. But he plays the Jets. He plays the Jets on Monday Night Football. Primetime Cam Newton, primetime Bill Belichick. it just feels like a like rushing touchdown game for Cam Newton. It's a total gut call. Aside from obviously the numbers look good against the Jets, but he doesn't have anyone to pass to. But what do you guys think, Tanner? What do you think about Cam Newton this week specifically? We don't even need to try to predict long term, but this week in probably the greatest matchup of all time.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I mean, it's the Jets, so I don't see how Bill Belichick doesn't find a way to just move the ball in this game, and Cam Newton should probably just fall into some touchdowns. Um, I wouldn't play him over Drew Lock or Carr, and I wouldn't play him over Bridgewater, but you can do worse, and it's just the Jets aren't going to be able to stop anybody, and like you said, a couple of rushing touchdowns could definitely happen.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm down a quarterback this week. I don't know if I'm going to fall into this trap that I'm going to take Cam Newton, expecting him to throw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the rushing's there. The thing about Cam Newton is he hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 3. He has 5 interceptions and a fumble since the last time he threw a touchdown, which is obviously very concerning for fantasy football. But Cam Newton got to get going somehow if New England wants to at least somewhat compete. This seems like a game where, at least to me, they're going to try to get the run game going a little bit, especially with the Jets losing Avery Williamson. I would imagine they run heavy and then run some play action stuff, and then obviously run Cam in the goal line. So yeah, if you're like in desperate need of a quarterback, Cam Newton is not the worst option you could have this week.
We do our fantasy football rankings show tomorrow night, and just the way I'm feeling right now, I'm going to be doing my rankings after this. I'm ranking pissed off because of the Packers. They fucked our fan base over. So don't be surprised if you see me get a little aggressive. I'm kind of thinking Cam Newton top 12 this week. Not gonna lie. Uh, Solely based on rushing touchdowns. If he doesn't get rushing touchdowns, probably outside the top 20. Any other quarterbacks you guys want to talk about before we head on to the running back position?
Not related to quarterbacks, but going back to Luton, if the Texans defense is available, they should be a really nice stream this week. I picked them up Sunday morning so that I could play them this week.
Definitely a good point.
Do you guys think Nick Foles is worth a look at all this week? Playing, a Titans defense who hasn't really lived up to the potential that everyone thought at the beginning of the year.
1,000%. Titans have the worst pass rush in the entire league, lowest sack percentage, and that's why they lost to Joe Burrow last week. We talk about every single week. When is the week Joe Burrow going to get hit and just stay down because he gets hit time and time again? He didn't really get hit last week, and they won. Surprise, surprise. So, and I think that's a credit to how bad the Titans are defensively, not a credit to, oh, the Bengals figured it out. So if Nick Foles doesn't get pressure, I think he can make a throw, and that's all it really comes down to. I think he finds Mooney for a couple shots, and this is the first game in a couple weeks now that Allen Robinson doesn't have a shutdown corner on him. Let's head over to the running backs. Whole laundry list of injuries this week, and then there's bye weeks. I want to come out first before we head into anything else, just so we don't really need to talk about it. But I fully expect Aaron Jones to play this week against the 49ers. I was told last week by someone inside the organization that Aaron Jones was already fully healthy, like good enough to go. The only reason he wouldn't play for Thursday is what they said is if they are fully confident that they could win the game. And they would do that just for contract leverage. So like, hey, we won, we did all this without you. You're not important to our team. Since then, obviously, A.J. Dillon gets COVID. He gives it to Jamal Williams and Kamal Martin. So, but the other running back 2 and 3 for the Packers done. We get Dexter Williams promoted. He's the one I want if Aaron Jones does for some reason miss. Dexter Williams is a stud, but I am pretty confident that Aaron Jones, along with like David Bakhtiari, Kevin King, all of them, I expect them all to play this week. But yeah, like I said, I think I would much rather have Dexter Williams over Tyler Irvin for Thursday if for some reason Jones is ruled out. First running back situation I do want to talk about, and I say situation, let's talk about the Ravens running backs. Mark Ingram out last week. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards both turned in pretty nice performances against a tough Steelers defense. Turn it around, they get to face the Colts, who are like the next toughest run defense, pretty much. I think they might be third. I think Buccaneers might be number one, but still, really, really tough. Mark Ingram expected to be out again, but J.K. Dobbins looked good. Gus Edwards is a clear hammer at the running back position. Luke, if you had to go out and make a claim for one of these two running backs, which one would you want for this week?
I think I'm going to say Gus Edwards. I mean, the potential is obviously there for J.K. Dobbins to, get the more snaps, get the more yards just because he's younger, whatever, see what he can do. But I feel like Gus Edwards, he had 87 yards on 16 attempts, and he had a touchdown. Just like you said, he's a hammer. He seems like the power back. He seems like the kind of guy they're going to use to, get when they're down in the red zone, punch it in from 1-2 yards. I think the Colts defense is good enough to maybe stifle Baltimore a little bit at the red zone. And if you have a guy who can just put their head down and pound in the end zone, that's a touchdown right there. And I think, the thing that sets it apart for me is Gus Edwards scoring a touchdown on the goal line. So that's why I like Gus Edwards a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If I were to bet on the guy to get the goal line touchdown, I think it's Gus Edwards. I think that's where they want to use him right there. But if I was putting a claim on a guy, for me, it's Dobbins, and I would actually go pretty hard to try and get Dobbins. Like if you have a certain amount of fab, I love how he's looked all year. I brought him up on the show last week. I think towards the end, I was like, they're going to come off the bye. Mark Ingram's probably going to miss, and this guy who's looked talented all year might have his first crack at finally getting opportunity. And he got that opportunity against a really good Steelers team, and that was competitive all game long. And he just looked like a stud, I thought. 113 yards on 15 carries. He is the pass catcher out of this group of running backs, so that's added fantasy points right there. And I just feel like he has the ability to be a back half of the season league winner for your team if you get him. I've been stashing him in one of my main leagues all year. Sadly, it's the only league I have him, but I'm just really excited what I saw this week. And if Mark Ingram continues to stay out, and even if he does come back, he hasn't looked good this year. Like, I love Dobbins going forward.
I think there really isn't a debate about who's the most talented out of the trio. It's for sure J.K. Dobbins. Um, and I think what they did last week against the Steelers makes Baltimore feel, at the very least, comfortable to where they don't need to bring Mark Ingram back. It's not like they need to rush him back, and he's a game changer by any means. They have two younger guys. They can split the load. On top of that, they obviously have Lamar Jackson carrying the ball as well. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Ingram is out even a couple more games, not just this week. Between these two, I think it's game script specific, I guess. We've seen even with Ingram in there that Gus Edwards was the garbage time running back. They threw him in there to run out the clock. He can pretty much fall forward and get 3 yards. So if you think the Ravens are going to kill the Colts, then I think Gus Edwards is the play. If you think the Colts could upset them, I think Dobbins is the play. I feel like the line was like Ravens favored by 4 or something. Colts are at home. It just Colts usually play well at home, but this feels like a Philip Rivers meltdown spot to me. Like any week pretty much is. But I think this one definitely is, especially, well, I was going to say especially with no T.Y. Hilton, but he doesn't throw to T.Y. Hilton anyway. I would prefer Gus Edwards. I think it's very, very close, though. The next running back, and I guess I like him for the same reasons why I like Cam Newton, is Damian Harris. He had another really good showing. It's clear the Patriots can run the football. Bills aren't obviously the toughest opponent, but spoiler alert, neither are the Jets, so I think Damian Harris is going to get plenty of work and have plenty of success in this game. Tanner, my question with Damian Harris, it's not if he's going to get touches, because that's pretty locked in for this type of game. It's not if he's going to be successful. Again, the Jets. It's do you like him this week more than either of the Baltimore running backs?
Oh man. Um, I wouldn't say I like him more than the Baltimore running backs, just because I have way more faith in that Baltimore offense. And, I feel like you can kind of just guarantee that those two running backs will be successful this week. And you can't really guarantee that with how the Patriots have looked on offense. But I think it's close. Like, I think Harris is right up there this week. He just looks awesome. Like, his touchdown run was really nice. He looks really explosive. So yeah, he's a great play. But I would personally go with I would give the edge to the Ravens running backs there.
Okay, yeah. I'll take the flip side on it just because New England plays the Jets this week. The Jets got to be in all-out tank mode. And this seems like the game, like I just said before, that New England can unleash Damian Harris, give him a bunch of work, see how much he can handle. Like you both just said, he looks great. His touchdown run was awesome. If he can, handle all that, this is the week to show New England, like, yeah, I can handle all this, make me the starting running back. And that's why I like, I know it's not, a great analysis, but that's why I like him this week. It seems to me that it's more an obvious choice of who's going to get the ball in New England is going to be Damian Harris rather than, the Baltimore running backs just splitting carries against the tough Indianapolis defense.
Yeah, my only worry about Damian Harris is something that Luke, you bring up whenever we talk about New England running backs pretty much is maybe Cam Newton steals the goal line touches. And that would suck. I would put any amount of money that Damian Harris has more yards than both Baltimore running backs this week. Uh, Individually, not together. But yeah, touchdown. There's no way to predict it. Like we shouldn't even try. Be like, oh, I think this is a game Cam Newton is the one to do it. There's no analysis with it. It's pretty much, see how the defensive end plays Cam Newton mostly. But I like Damian Harris a lot. They will be all three of those running back, I believe, are going to be very close in my rankings, and I think you can feel pretty comfortable about all three of them as RB2s this week. I don't think that's too wild to say. Another running back that really stepped up last week, rookie DJ Dallas. He was slaughtered all week about his pass protection. I saw a lot of analogies with him to Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think he's a very good player. He plays at Buffalo this week. We just saw Buffalo get ran over despite them winning the game. And obviously, very tough to defend the Seattle running game when Russell Wilson is throwing 3 touchdowns to whoever he wants every game. Um, Only question with DJ Dallas, I guess, is if Carlos Hyde or Chris Carson come back, or Travis Homer, I suppose. Luke, given the risk of the people ahead of him on the place where you want to put in a waiver claim, or are you more willing to just kind of skip it and take a flyer on somebody else?
See, that's kind of the position I'm in one of my leagues. I had Austin Eckler, another running back who's out for the year or whatever. So I've been like trying to get, scrape from the bottom of the barrel, trying to get points. I don't know if I want to rely on DJ Dallas here. Buffalo's not, not by any means a great defense. Like, everyone was taking them in their fantasy drafts the first defense. I'm like, what the heck's going on? But if because of that reason, if, like Hyde or Carson are back, I don't know that Seattle would run them a lot, just because I feel like they're going to need, might as well give them another week of rest because Seattle's going to be in the playoffs. Keep them healthy for playoffs. That's the only way I can see Dallas getting some volume here. It's kind of a question mark to me. I don't really know what to think because I don't know what to think. I think I'll just skip DJ Dallas in the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, it's tough just because we don't have the information that we need yet. But if DJ Dallas goes into this game and it's the same Seattle backfield situation that was this last game, like I don't see how he's not a home run play there. Buffalo's just been getting torched on the ground recently. Like it's the biggest weakness of their defense. And like the Seahawks are going to score points, and DJ will get the volume if the other running backs are out. But so he's a guy where I would put like a $0 bid on him if you have the available roster spot for the hope that the other running backs are out, and then you have a great play. But I wouldn't take a big risk or try and spend a lot of fab trying to go get him.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I just find it very, very hard to believe that Carlos Hyde misses this game. I do think Chris Carson probably could. His supposed game time decision is clearly gamesmanship. I mean, there's no way he was going to play that game. They just wanted to keep them on their toes. So, I don't know, man. Like DJ Dallas, like you said, if he's the only one back there, sure. I mean, he's probably borderline RB1 at this point, but I'm not going to put any kind of weight on claiming him this week. On the other hand, someone I will probably put something on is Zach Moss. And I don't know about you guys, but I get no greater joy than being right about stuff. We talked about Zach Moss all week. I said Bills are going to come out and punch them in the mouth, and the player to do it is going to have to be Zach Moss. He's the more physical runner. And he got 14 carries, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't think this is, I mean, 2 touchdowns, throw that away. In terms of workload and yards, I don't think that's an anomaly. And he has Seattle this week. Not the hardest, not the easiest matchup. I think it's fine. He gets Arizona the week after that. I think that's fine. Then there's a bye. So then the rest of the season does look a little bit tougher. But in terms of the next 2 weeks, if you have some iffy injury, question mark, stuff like that, if you have Chris Carson maybe, I think Zach Moss is great. And he's always going to be a candidate for a goal line touchdown. It doesn't seem like they want to use Josh Allen on the goal line much of anymore, which is smart. Um, so I think Zach Moss is definitely a reliable person there, and definitely a flex play going forward rest of the season, even in those tough matchups. But Tanner, what do you think about Zach Moss?
Yeah, you brought him up on the show last week, and I think we were all in agreement that we liked him and even possibly going forward. And then he delivered this week, and they brought him in to be that goal line back. Is it Brandon Bean is the general manager? I want to say Billy
Yeah,
Bean, but I'm getting
Brandon
the
Beane.
A's. Yeah. Like he came out like after they drafted him, and he's like, yeah, he's the goal line dude. Like that's kind of like special to see like a GM specifically say that. So you know what you're getting with him. They've shown it. They want to use him on the goal line. Singletary isn't that dude on the goal line. And so I like that you have that touchdown upside on any given week, and he looks better than Singletary does right now. Singletary's been pretty ineffective. I was kind of high on Singletary going into the season because I thought I'd really like the talent, what I saw last year, but he doesn't seem to have it this year for whatever reason. So, like I said at the start of the show, I dropped Moss for Tevin Coleman because I thought Tevin Coleman was going to get fed, and it was looking like it before he went out with the knee injury, and it cost me a win. And now I'm Zach Mossless, and I'm hoping to pick him up this week off the waiver wire. But he's one of my top RB ads of the week.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have much more to add from that, but Singletary just hasn't looked like everyone thought he's looked, or he was going to look. And I feel like Buffalo's in a situation right now. They're inconsistent. They're consistent. They're dominating teams, whatever. But I feel like a lot of people are thinking that they're a team where they could go either way, kind of on fraud alert, maybe. So to me, it would make sense for Buffalo to ride the hot hand. Who's ever playing the best for them, just keep them going to keep getting them wins. And obviously, after last week, Zach Moss had a great week, and yeah, the touchdowns is absolutely what you're looking for. I'm one of those guys who drafted Zach Moss and been stashing him. I'm like, all right, is this the week I should play him? And I decided at the last second I didn't play him, and I got screwed on it because I lost by 6 points or whatever. But yeah, Zach Moss I think is going to be the hot hand. I think they might look for him a lot more than they have, coming into this week. So yeah, I'm all on board the Zach Moss train.
There's some coaches that really want to establish a team identity and stuff like that. And a team like Buffalo, a coach like Sean McDermott, they really want to establish that hard nosed, kind of, blue collar type of feel. And it's the same reason why I said I thought they would come out and try to punch New England in the mouth last week, which they did, and kind of say, hey, this is our division now. This week they play Seattle, clearly one of the toughest teams in the league, not defensively, but overall. And it's another one of those things. They're going to come out and try to punch them in the mouth, try to show everyone in the league and outwork them and make this game an ugly game, not be like a finesse passing game like Russell Wilson wants to play. So it seems like another Zach Moss game this week for sure. I have two other running backs. I'll just kind of throw them out there at once because NFC East, I don't really want to give them too much attention. Wayne Gallman at Washington. If Devontae Freeman doesn't play, I think Wayne Gallman is a better running back in general, and I think he is a decent play this week if Freeman is out. And on the other side of the game, J.D. McKissic continues to see more snaps than Antonio Gibson. I would assume they try to work something out with Gibson during their bye week and have some type of design plays for him because he's clearly, yeah, I think it's fair to say I think he's the most talented person on the entire team. I was questioning that for a little bit, but I think he's more talented than Terry McLaurin. Um, but J.D. McKissic's going to see a lot of passing down work. He does get some rushes. It's the Giants. It doesn't necessarily scare you for passing running backs or receiving running backs. So I think both of them are in flex play. J.D. McKissic in PPR, not necessarily standard. Any other running backs you two would like to bring up here?
Yeah. For me, it's a guy that I've been talking about all year. Very similar to J.K. Dobbins, like in a timeshare on a good offense, high draft capital. It's Cam Akers. Darrell Henderson is dealing with the thigh injury. Uh, they have the bye though. Darrell Henderson still looked really good in the game. He's playing really good football right now. So I think after the bye, I mean, Cam Akers is still probably going to be in a three running back timeshare, and you might not be able to start him. But maybe Darrell Henderson isn't that healthy, and maybe they really like what they saw from Cam Akers in that game, and they start to get him more work. Because if they give Cam Akers more work, he's going to be an amazing fantasy play. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you saw his 19-yard reception he had this week, but he broke like three tackles on one catch. And that man, I know the talent is there with him, and if he gets the volume, like he's going to be great. So if you have a roster spot, like I would be stashing Cam Akers. I have a movement in one of my leagues to put him on my bench right now, and I have him in a couple of others. So I just love the possibility that could be him.
Yeah.
I yeah,
But
I
sorry.
100% agree. No, you're good.
Yeah. I was just gonna bring up one more, but never mind. I just looked at and he was 82% owned. I was gonna bring up Justin Jackson, but I don't know if you guys want to talk about him at all. But
They seem to like him more than Josh Kelly for whatever reason right now. So if they're going to give him touches, then sure, I guess. It's not. I don't know. I just don't believe in the talent is the hard thing, but opportunity leads to productivity. I guess is the thing I like to always say. So opportunity is there. I think he needs to be owned. If you're in one of the 18% of leagues that he's not owned right now.
Yeah, I'm done with Kelly at this point. I think he's totally droppable, and they seem like they want Justin Jackson to be their guy. I mean, they even brought in forget his first, yeah, Tremaine Pope to try and
Yeah.
give this offense a spark. Like they don't like what they have with Kelly right now for whatever reason, and I mean Justin Jackson's gonna get the most volume in that backfield. So uh, yeah, I mean, he's a decent flex play.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you why they're not giving Josh Kelly more looks. It's the same thing with Cam Akers. I'm done with Sean McVay. He's outthinking himself. Just give Cam Akers touches, especially over Malcolm Brown, because Malcolm Brown fucking sucks. Let's talk about wide receivers. Since I feel like I need to talk about him every week, he is a little bit over the 60% mark. I need to talk about Cole Beasley. I feel like we're a pro Cole Beasley show at this point. If he's available, pick him up. He plays Seattle this week. He's going to get fed. Moving on to the players that are actually on here. Marvin Jones at Minnesota. Minnesota, obviously. Their corners will be exposed this week now that there's not 30-mile-an-hour winds. Kenny Galladay most likely out with a knee injury. Marvin Jones will step up. He'll see plenty of targets from Matthew Stafford. Tanner, what's your thoughts on Marvin Jones in terms of is he a wide receiver 3 or not quite there for you this week?
Yeah, I would say he's probably right on the borderline, wide receiver 3 territory. It's just I don't think it's as simple as Kenny Galladay's out, Marvin Jones is great, and then like you saw one good week. Like Kenny Galladay has been out before, and Marvin Jones hasn't really stepped up. And all year I've been off Marvin Jones just because he hasn't been getting any work. And then I'm not willing to buy in right now. After one good game, I think if anything, it probably benefits T.J. Hawkinson the most. But I think you're going to see a wide distribution with is it Quintus Cephas?
Cephas,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like he could get more involved, Amendola could get more involved, and then Marvin Jones could leave this game with like 3 catches. So he's not. I just don't have confidence throwing him into my lineup.
Yeah, I'm totally agree with you, Tanner. The thing with Marvin Jones is though that I feel like anytime he gets a catch, it's going to be a touchdown. That's why the 3 catches scares me. I think last week I predicted him to have his monster game. It turned out that it might be like 2 weeks ago. Might have been like last week where he had his monster game. I was actually going against a team who had Marvin Jones, Hunter Renfrow, and Demarcus Robinson as 2 receivers in a flex, and they all scored, and I lost because of that, which is wild. But Marvin Jones, yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm off of him. I think Kenny Galladay is just a huge player for this Lions offense. It almost feels like he's the guy the offense runs through. They're going to look to him. Without him, I feel like this offense is kind of just scramble mode, backyard football. Matthew Stafford, avoiding hits and just chucking the ball. And I don't think that bodes well for Marvin Jones. I think he's more the guy who's plays well when he has the number 2 corner on him. Let's a safety shade to the other side. I'm not big on Marvin Jones, and I don't think I'm going to be for the rest of the year because I feel like every year he has one big game, and I think that was last week.
I will say, you say Marvin Jones is good when he has the number 2 corner on him. Minnesota doesn't have anyone good enough to be a number 2 corner. They're all pretty much like dime corners right now. They all suck. When Kenny Galladay was out weeks 1 and 2, Jones had 8 targets week 1, 6 targets week 2. Week 2 was the worst game, but he did catch a touchdown. That was against Green Bay. And Marvin Jones, uh, he always catches a touchdown against Green Bay, but he also had Alexander on him a little bit, so take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. Quintez Cephas, big monster wide receiver, extremely strong out of Wisconsin. What do you expect? He had 10 targets week 1, 3 targets week 2 in that Green Bay game, and again, he is the perfect matchup for Kevin King. So I take not much away from that. I think he's closer to the 10 targets. So I think he is very much in play, owned in less than 1% of leagues. Clearly the sneakier option of the 2 Lions wide receivers. I don't think it's a situation where, now Danny Amendola is going to have a blow up game. But I do think receiving yards need to go somewhere. Vikings, decent at covering tight ends. I think they could use Harrison Smith even a little bit to cover TJ Hawkinson, who's clearly the top receiving weapon. So I'm pretty sure someone's going to go off in this game. And, take a chance. Flip a coin. It's either going to be Jones or Cephas, in my opinion. I don't see anybody else who could do that. Next wide receiver, Sterling Shepard had a nice game against Tampa. Shepard's an interesting wide receiver, clearly very talented. He's the number 1 guy, in my opinion, for the Giants when he's healthy. He just hasn't been healthy very often. He's interesting because they use him quite a bit in the slot, which only benefits him, but he doesn't want to be a slot receiver. He keeps being very vocal about wanting to play on the outside. So he also gets some outside snaps, and he gets moved around everywhere. No corner can follow him. So in a game like this one against Washington, I think he's very much viable for fantasy. So I guess with you two who are hesitant about Marvin Jones, would you be more willing to pick up and start Sterling Shepard against Washington this week, Luke?
I think so. I really do. I think with Daniel Jones, he has like these stretches where he looks good and then he throws a bunch of interceptions. I think that Shepard is a guy that Daniel Jones, is going to look to as like almost like a calming presence. Like I'm going to throw it to him and be almost sure that he's going to catch it. And I think Sterling Shepard is good enough to be in the conversation, of I won't say one of the best receivers in the league, but I think he has a talent, to make his name out there. So I'm high on Sterling Shepard. I think he's going to be good for the rest of the year. And I feel like, with Washington, they have a decent pass rush. Daniel Jones is going to be under pressure. He's going to want to look to Sterling Shepard a lot as almost like a safety blanket. So I'm big on Sterling Shepard this week.
Yeah, without even really thinking about it, I would easily take Shepard over Marvin Jones. Shepard had 10 targets this last week, 8 targets the week before that. And I do think he's a pretty talented player. And I mean, I feel like he's just going to see the same, like around that range of looks, like every week. I think that's how they want to use him. And if he's getting targeted like that, like he's just going to, there's a certain baseline you're going to get with him on any given week. But Zach, I disagree with you with the fact that I don't think he's their one. I think it's Slayton. I think Slayton's super talented, and I just love what I've seen from him through 2 years. But I really do like the talent of Shepard. And if you're looking for a guy to get you a guaranteed amount of points in your lineup, like possibly 10 targets, like Shepard's your guy.
I think Slayton's sneaky good. He just was the third read on a lot of the plays last Monday night. Uh, Shepard was number one. But yeah, to your point, 18 targets over the past 2 games. That was against Philly, against Tampa Bay, Washington, a team you can run on. So I would assume those targets go down a little bit when they give Gallman or Freeman more touches, since they Giants want to be a ground and pound team desperately. So this is kind of the week where they can maybe do it. They haven't had very many opportunities. They played Pittsburgh, the Bears, 49ers, Rams, Dallas. They could do it. But then Philly, Tampa Bay, they have Washington here, and then it's the Eagles again. So I think they're going to desperately do whatever the hell they can to run the ball 30 times this game. If they're up, good. If not, that's when you see Shepard and other guys starting to get involved in the passing game a little bit more. Who else? Oh, Mike Williams is underowned again. People like to pick him up. He doesn't do anything. Drop him. He had a big week. They're going to pick him up again. Probably going to nothing next week, but he needs to be owned. Tanner, you can talk about Mike Williams. I know you love him.
Yeah, I started him in Dynasty this week. I've never seen a number 7 overall pick that is like that people just don't care about more than Mike Williams. Like it just feels like he doesn't get the attention that he deserves, and it's just throw it to him. Just throw it to him more, please, because he will catch the ball every single time. Uh, I It's just the problem is it's inconsistent, and I see that turning a corner with how Herbert has been playing, and it's still the first half of the season. And I think in the second half of the season, you're looking at a guy that I think could turn into that consistent, like he has that consistent wide receiver to like ability, I think. And just Chargers, please throw him the ball because he's great. And I think that the big games from him are going to start coming more often than the disappearing acts like he had last week, because that's 2 out of 3 weeks now where he's had an amazing game.
Yeah, Zach, when you just said that description of Mike Williams, people pick him up and then drop him because he doesn't do anything, and then he goes off for 17 points or whatever. I'll raise my hand to that. I think I have a personal vendetta going with Mike Williams here. Tanner, I know you love him, and that makes me want to love him. So I'm big. Yeah, I'm big on Mike Williams. I say it every week that Justin Herbert seems like a gunslinger to me. He's a young guy. He's going to make rookie mistakes. He's going to throw into double coverage. And I don't know if there's a receiver you want in double coverage more than Mike Williams, to make those incredible catches that he seems to make at least once a week. I think if you have some, decent receivers on your team, Mike Williams might be a good pickup and stash, for when your players are on bye weeks, or he might even be a good pickup, a stash and a trade piece, to get another good player. But other than that, Mike Williams is, he's a solid player. Like you said, he's a number 7 pick. He's a number 7 pick in the draft. He's not a bad player, and he's got a guy who likes to throw deep to him. So I mean, all that adds up for a good Mike Williams. As long as the rest of the season goes.
and he plays the Raiders this week. You would assume that's a good matchup. I don't know. Maybe he only performs well in bad matchups, but I guess Denver was a good matchup too. So I think you can start him this week with confidence. And then Corey Davis, we should probably talk about. Corey Davis continues to perform. Owned right now in 52% of leagues. That's because he's been picked up over 30 or gained 30% ownership already this week. So probably available for you. He's gotten at least 5 targets in every single game. In the one game with 5 targets, he caught a touchdown. 10 targets in back-to-back games with a touchdown. Massive game against the Bengals last week. Tough matchup with the Bears this week, but I think the targets are going to continue to be there. He obviously doesn't see top coverage with A.J. Brown there, and he's not. We talked about this early in the season. This is the first time he hasn't been covered by the number one corner in his entire career, I would assume including high school. And on top of that, he's not the first read. That, I would assume, is Derrick Henry. He's not the second, because that's A.J. Brown. Number 3, pick your poison. Is it Jonnu Smith or is it Corey Davis? It's probably gearing towards Corey Davis now, but if you're the third look on the defense, the third read, then you're probably doing pretty good, and he's thriving in that role. So, Luke, what do you think about Corey Davis, I guess, rest of season, not necessarily this week or next week?
I think I think he has to be owned in every league. Like you said, he's got 5 targets every game. He's back-to-back weeks with 10 targets. I mean, that's just fantasy gold sitting on the waiver wire right now. In almost half of ESPN leagues. He has 3 touchdowns this year. He probably has more if he didn't miss 2 games. But like you said, the attention is going to go to Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry is just an absolute monster, and once it gets cold out, and AJ Brown's an absolute monster when it gets cold out too. So someone, no eyes are going to be on Corey Davis. I think all the eyes have shifted to Jonnu Smith as the third option. He started off great, and now he's kind of going downhill a little bit here. I think that just leaves the door open for Corey Davis. Just keep seeing those 5+ targets a game, resulting in 50 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I feel like Corey Davis is Luke's Mike Williams for me. Yeah, Luke, I feel like you talk about Corey Davis every single week, and he's just sitting here chugging along every week, getting a certain amount of looks. I think Corey Davis looks a lot better right now than he did at the start of his career. I thought he leveled up last season, and I think he's really carried that into this season. And I love the Titans and this team, and I love the way Ryan Tannehill's playing. And Corey Davis is attached to that every single week, and I feel like he's a threat to do what he did this week on a weekly basis. And like Mike Williams, he has the super high draft capital, and I think you're starting to see that talent emerge a little bit with him. So I just feel like he reminds me of Sterling Shepard in the sense of what I was saying earlier, how he just has that kind of baseline that you can guarantee in your lineup, and he has an upside to produce pretty big week like he did this week.
I have a few other wide receivers here. I'll just rattle them off, and Tanner, you can comment on them or bring up anybody else you want to talk about. Allen Lazard began practicing last week. I don't think he plays Thursday, but I would assume he returns in week 10. He's owned in a third of leagues, so he should probably get picked up. Because I'm not sure if you heard on Twitter by every single Packer fan or not, but we did not make a move today. And then the only receiver to be traded was Isaiah Ford. That's the other one I want to talk about here. He was kind of a sneaky DFS play for the entire season. It seems like every week someone thought he would be a sleeper. I think he's got some talent, and obviously New England will bring that out of him. So I think he's an interesting pickup, as well as Jacoby Myers, who has shown some success, and he looks to be the number 1 receiving weapon right now, for however much that is worth. I don't know if Ford can play this week, so that would mean Jacoby Myers would be for sure the number 1 receiving weapon against the Jets. Again, in a vacuum, that is good, but it's also the Patriots, so who knows? But yeah, those are the 3 I have left. Tanner, what do you got?
Yeah, as far as the Patriots receivers go, I wouldn't touch them at all. Like what we were saying about Cam Newton, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since week 3 or 4, and 5 interceptions and no touchdowns. Just with the way Cam Newton is playing, and it looks like he can't throw the ball at all. So I couldn't put a Patriots receiver in my lineup. But as far as Allen Lazard goes, I feel like there's been a big question for a while. Is it MVS or Lazard as the number 2? And I think it's definitely Lazard. MVS, he's not that dude, and Lazard has flashed a lot more than he has. And I think when Lazard's on the field and playing with Devontae Adams drawing all that coverage, like Lazard is, I think you can do a lot worse than him. He's a good pickup, and he has that big playability playing with Rodgers.
Yeah, Zach, I'm happy you brought up Allen Lazard. Me as a Packer fan, I'm going to try to make my waiver claim for Allen Lazard, just to get another Packer on my team and makes it more fun to root for in fantasy football. But being in leagues with, over 75% are Green Bay fans, I'm probably not going to get him. But like you said, Tanner, it seems like MVS is not the guy. I'm sure all the Packer fans are hoping he's the guy. It just doesn't seem like he is. But Allen Lazard, in the 3 games he's played in half-point PPR, is 15 points, 5.5 points, and 23 points. 4 receptions, 3 receptions, 6 receptions. That's probably what you're going to get from Aaron Rodgers, who likes to spread the ball around. But seeing how many points he gets off of just that, not a ton of receptions, makes it worth a good look. Just to that big playability. Eyes are going to be on Devontae Adams. Eyes are going to be on Aaron Jones. Allen Lazard seems like a great pickup here for the rest of the season.
The biggest thing Lazard has going for him is that outside of Devontae Adams, he's the best at coming back to the football and just has the best chemistry with Rodgers on broken plays. Somehow, I believe Pro Football Focus did some sort of measurement in terms of broken plays last year, and Allen Lazard was the best graded receiver on them. I think it's pretty obvious. So, yeah, he is clearly the number 2, even though I do still believe Equanimeous St. Brown is the most talented of them. But he had a chance to step up last week, had 2 big drops. So, yeah, it is what it is. Both him and MVS both have a lot of drops. Biggest difference between the two is MVS also cannot run a route. He is slightly more athletic Jeff Janis, I would say. That's about him. Going for tight ends here, obviously there's some on bye, but also you may have George Kittle, who looks to be out for at least the fantasy season now. It's rough. We can start with Dallas Goedert. He's on a bye, but this is a guy we talked about last week. You need to pick him up. And then all of a sudden, midweek, everyone's like, what? He could come back? Everyone's freaking out. And, that's why you guys watch us. You're welcome. He also didn't produce, so I'm sorry about that. I was really talking him up. I thought he would at least get targets. Silly me. But next week, week 10, coming off his bye, he's going to be healthier. He'll be worked back into the offense. I fully believe he's a top 7 tight end every single week. Luke, are you in agreement with that?
100%. That game on Sunday night was an absolute shit show of Dallas and Philadelphia. It seemed like no offenses were doing anything. And I don't think Philadelphia's offense wasn't doing anything because Dallas Goedert wasn't getting the ball. I think Philadelphia needs to run their offense through Dallas Goedert. I probably would say, other than Miles Sanders, he's the best player on that offense. Dallas Goedert is the guy. He's a big target, athletic guy, worked the middle of the field well, mismatch with players. Tight end is not a deep position. Like, get a starting tight end on your team, and that's Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, the Eagles they just seem so inconsistent every week. It's like even against the Cowboys, it looked ugly for a little while when the Cowboys are in total shambles right now. But Goddard absolutely needs to be owned and probably started. So I don't love him just because on paper and logically it always seems like, hey, I know he's super talented because I've seen it and you guys all feel the same way, and I'm not gonna discredit him for one bad week here, but I've seen a lot of instances where Ertz has been out and you think Goddard's going to be really good and then he doesn't quite come through. But he absolutely needs to be owned, and I would feel comfortable starting him. I'm just maybe putting the brakes on him a little bit as far as maybe he's not that like home run tight end pick that we've seen as a possibility for a while.
That's fair. And to your guys' credit, you brought up a little bit. No matter what the matchup is, Philadelphia is going to make it a competitive game. Whether they play the Jets or the Cowboys, or if they play the Ravens, I fully believe it's going to be close, and they're going to be in passing situations. So I think that is good for whoever is healthy catching the football there. Next tight end, Eric Ebron, Steelers tight end, plays Dallas this week. Obviously, that's a good thing. Eric Ebron's been playing well. 13 targets the past 2 weeks, had 4 for 48 and a tutter against the Ravens last week. In a year where there's not much consistency or reliability at the tight end position, Eric Ebron's had 5 or more targets in 4 or 5 of the last 6 games. He's had at least 40 yards in 5 of the last 6 games. So, I mean, he's, I guess, as consistent as you could ask for from this position. Tanner, what do you think about Eric Ebron?
Uh, yeah, I mean, he's getting those 5 looks like every single week, and the question is, what does he do with those? And what I like about him is that with all the other receivers on the team, it seems like they put him in good situations to get mismatches, and they look for him around the end zone. So at least with the limited opportunities he's going to see on a weekly basis, you have a decent chance at least getting the touchdown with him. And this week against the Cowboys, it's arguably the best matchup you could ask for right now. So I think Ebron is a decent play this week.
I also think Eric Ebron's a decent play this week. I mentioned on the show before, I think Eric Ebron is the ultimate. It's the Eric Ebron week guy. This seems like the Eric Ebron week against Dallas. If it doesn't work this week, then I'm going to talk myself out of Eric Ebron. Probably never touch him with a 20-foot pole for the rest of my life. But Eric Ebron, he gets the 5 looks. You're going to get 5 looks to him every week. Just like you said, Tanner, what is he going to do with it? I think he's athletic enough to, make some nice catches, run with the ball a little bit. Dallas's linebackers, Dallas in general is in shambles. This seems like a game where Eric Ebron will catch a couple inroads and take him, 10, 15 yards, maybe get a touchdown in there too.
One thing we will look at tonight, I know Sean Lee returned last week for Dallas, who I believe is a very good player. It's possible maybe he covered Dallas Goedert last week, and that could be why he didn't get as many looks. Because I looked up his snaps when you guys were talking to. Goddard played almost the entire game, which is surprising because I was looking for him, and not only did I not find him, neither did Carson Wentz. So maybe Dallas is good against tight ends. Maybe it's one thing they're good at. I don't know. But yeah, I still think Eric Ebron's fine this week. On the other side of the game, Dalton Schultz was one of the top tight ends, owned everywhere. Everyone's like, oh, I can't believe we missed out on him, picked him up. And, tough matchup with the Giants, did nothing, didn't really do much against Arizona or Washington. Good old Ben DiNucci, I think that was the quarterback's name last week. Found him 6 times off of 8 targets, 53 yards against Philadelphia. Not an easy matchup against the Steelers this week. And also, DiNucci might not be starting. I guess they could promote a practice squad guy to start, is what was reported this week. Either way, he's a big target underneath. It's going to be easy throws. Going to be rhythm throws, trying to get the offense going, build some confidence. So I do think the targets, at the very least, will be there for Schultz this week. Is there anything more than that, I guess, Luke, to be excited about with Schultz?
No. Other than, Ezekiel Elliott, maybe Amari Cooper, I don't think there's anything to be excited for of this Dallas offense. Like you said, though, my ears did perk up a little bit when you said they might promote a practice squad quarterback, just make some easy throws to Schultz. You could see 6 receptions again. That's good for, good PPR points.
Yeah.
And he had 6 receptions for 53 yards. that'll probably get you tight end one numbers with how tight ends are doing this year. So yeah, I think Schultz at least needs to be looked at if you're in desperate need. I wouldn't expect to him to go out and have 75 yards and 3 touchdowns or anything though. I'd expect him just about 5 receptions, 50 yards.
Yeah, when I see Ben DiNucci as a likely starter, and then he might be replaced by a practice squad player, and then I see the Steelers defense, I'm terrified to play any Cowboys this week. Um, it's going to be hard for them to score any points in this game, uh, and it's going to be ugly, I think. So I would just be hands off on any Cowboys players this week.
Completely fair. And then the last thing here, well, I'll say I think Austin Hooper worth a look. Going to be a starting tight end on bye this week. I think he's back in week 10. Now we talked about George Kittle out, so we've seen the San Francisco tight end thrive, whoever it is. Jordan Reed might be back this week. I think he's practicing, but that's going to be a big question mark. We've seen Ross Dwelly succeed without George Kittle before, so if Jordan Reed doesn't come back, I think Dwelly could have some success against the Packers as the lone receiving tight end option. It's tough to predict. Like, I don't know if Jordan Reed's going to be back, but if he's back, he's fully the one I want. But I don't. I think I'm personally going to avoid the situation. What about you, Tanner?
Yeah, I'm definitely avoiding it. Just the Niners they just have so many problems right now, and it's impressive that they're still 4-4 despite all the injuries they've faced. And I think it just shows how well coached they are and how good of a team they are. But I don't really trust fantasy options for them right now. And what are the chances like Jordan Reed even gets through a full game if he plays? Like I mean, he had that one good week, and then you wanted to buy in, and then he got hurt the next week. So yeah, I'm definitely avoiding it.
Yeah, probably should avoid it. Zach, I know we had this conversation maybe week 2 when George Kittle was hurt, whenever he got hurt right away at the beginning of the year, about Jordan Reed, and you got me all hyped up for him. I was so excited for Jordan Reed. And then he played week 3 against the Giants, and the Giants looked like they just took like axes to his head. They were like, seemed like they were targeting to get him out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to come around, getting back hype up on Jordan Reed here. Someone's got to get the ball at San Francisco. Brandon Ayuk just had a good week. Maybe it's him. Him being a rookie receiver, I don't know how well he's going to deal with double teams. So if Jordan Reed's back, I think he might be a good option. I'm going to try not to talk myself into it, but I bet by this time next week I will have Jordan Reed as my starting tight end in a couple of leagues.
The one thing I'll say about Nick Mullins is Shanahan. The only thing he's ever said about him, and he said it multiple times now, is Nick Mullins is going to be a great coach one day. And that means Nick Mullins is very smart and he sucks at playing quarterback. That's all that means. He will make the right read every single time. I don't think he has a very strong arm. So I think the tight end is probably, a good target for him in this game. And I guess going forward, assuming it's him and not CJ Beathard. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch the Brandon Ayuk versus Jair Alexander matchup. I think that's going to be a fun one. They're both very, very good at the football, but I will probably avoid both of these tight ends. And I'm not going to play one against the Packers anyways, just asking for trouble. Okay, any other tight ends you guys want to talk about? I know it's a fun position. Nope.
Not really. Do you think? I mean, I'll bring it up just because we talk about it every week. Do you think there's any prudence in looking at any Packers tight ends?
I would have to look at how San Francisco's done on the defensive front the last couple games, but I would say most likely no. Um, I mean, they both Sternberger and Tanyan played pretty well last week, but it goes, played perfectly into the weather. You're not going to be trying to force it downfield by any means. All Devontae Adams targets were super close, so could one of them do something? Yeah. I'm not going to bet on it, and the Packers will. It's the Packers' personality. Especially if Aaron Jones is out, they're going to come out and try to run the football. If it's Dexter Williams, they're going to come out and try to pound the rock with Dexter Williams. Um, talking about that contract situation, obviously, with Aaron Jones in the offseason. That's a reason for it, but also it's just Matt LaFleur's attitude. That's what he's going to try to do, especially after a loss. So I would expect quite a bit of Mercedes Lewis in this game on the field. And, while Mercedes Lewis isn't going to catch passes, if he's taking up the snaps from Tanyan and Sternberger, that greatly lowers their ceiling.
I'm sorry, Tanner. I had one more.
Very good.
Do you think that we should put any thought into Trey Burton now that he seems like he's Indianapolis's goal line running back?
I guess. It's clearly not Jonathan Taylor. I can tell you that much. I don't understand what's going on in Indianapolis, but yeah, the good thing about Burton is we always say about tight ends, you're just looking for someone to score you a touchdown, and if he is going to be getting handoffs as well, and I guess that raises his likelihood at a touchdown. So, sure, like it's worth a dart throw.
Yeah, somehow he has 2 1-yard touchdown runs recently. But yeah, I brought him up last week just because I think he's he is my favorite tight end in Indianapolis right now from a fantasy perspective. He's getting looks every week, and I like that they're getting him involved in creative ways. And Frank Reich loves this guy, and he went out and acquired him in the offseason for a reason. And you've seen Trey Burton get it done for multiple weeks in a row. There's no way I would play him this week against the Ravens. I do think it's going to be a Phillip Rivers implosion, and I think it could get pretty ugly there. But like Trey, if you want to keep him on your roster and hold him through this week, I think he's a decent play.
I'm curious to see what his ranking was last week. I'm going to bring it up right here because he did nothing but score that touchdown essentially. So I'm interested to see what the value of one touchdown is in terms of how relative to the other tight ends. So yeah, 3 catches, 9 yards, 1 rush, 2 yards, and touchdown. In PPR, that's good for tight end 11. So there you go. There's a tight end 1. All you got to do is find a touchdown. Doesn't matter about yards. In half PPR, it was tight end 9, so better. Whatever. Yeah, he's fine. So talking about who is your favorite pickup of the week, I will go first. As always, I start my sentence without knowing who the player is. It's for sure a running back for me. I think it is Damian Harris. Because I think Damian Harris is lasting value past this week, but I obviously like him on prime time against the Jets. I think Zach Moss is very close, but I would go Damian Harris as my top pickup for the week if he's available in your league. What about you, Tanner?
For me, it's J.K. Dobbins. He looks like a monster when he gets the ball, and he runs hard, and he doesn't want to go down. Like, he's trying to make something happen on every single play, and he did that against the Steelers last week, and he was a big part of their offense. And he's got the talent. He's playing in that Ravens offense that wants to run the ball. And a lot's been made of the Ravens don't look that great so far, but I just really believe in this organization. I believe in Lamar. I believe that good fantasy days are ahead for this team as a whole, and I think Dobbins is a good play this week. And Mark Ingram's hurt right now, and Dobbins could just be a great play for the rest of the season. So he's a guy I would be going after.
Yeah, you guys both want running backs. I'll take a receiver, one of my favorite players in the league, Corey Davis. Tanner, you hit it on the head when you said you're Mike Will, my Corey Davis. And I just like, he's just going to be a good player. Like, he's a good player. He's one of the best college receivers of all time. He's finally, he doesn't have Mariota throwing the ball anymore. He's got a competent quarterback. He's had a great year. He's going to be I feel like not a lot of eyes are going to be on him. I feel, he's getting the targets, the receptions. That just all adds up for a good receiver for the rest of the way for me.
It's interesting. I mean, we're talking about week 9. and I'm comfortable starting all three of those players on my team this week. It just kind of shows how much value there is out there right now. So don't sleep on it. And maybe I'll post my Waiver League lineup after this as well, just showing how much value there is out there. Um, Pretty good looking lineup. Hopefully another win this week. But yeah, anything else you guys want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, before the show, I saw Luke wearing his Dodger hat, and I had to go get mine. So go Dodgers.
I will say that I'm a Brewers fan. I'm just happy Clayton Kershaw got a ring.
Nice. Yeah, that's all.
I haven't watched baseball since 2010, so I'm uncomfortable right now. Uh, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do our fantasy rankings show. Always good stuff there. I'm sure there will be some obligatory Todd Gurley talk from Luke and Trevor. Um, since I came out and said some bad stuff on Twitter, I guess, about Todd Gurley, and I was attacked